Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Barbara, could you call the roll?
Okay, we have Commissioners Moss, Sales, and Noonan present.
Thank you. I think all of you know that our hearing is broadcast on Channel 35, and if you have problems sleeping, I encourage you to take a look at it. Most importantly, I'd like to welcome our new Commissioner, Richard Moss. We are delighted. We now have a full complement of commissioners. Mr. Moss has over 14 years of business experience. He is the president of the Moss Group. He oversees the firm's day-to-day operations. The Moss Group is one of the largest independent owners of commercial office real estate in the San Fernando Valley, and we're delighted to have him as one of our commissioners. Welcome.
Thank you, President Sale.
Would you like to say something?
Oh, just how happy I am to be here, and I look forward to assisting the commission to do its job effectively.
Thank you very much. The GM briefing?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have a fairly lengthy item, and I think an important item here today that I'd like to indulge your time in a bit and see if we can. It even works. Okay. You'll recall back on our first board meeting back on March 1, Mr. President, and the board had requested that I look into what our opportunities are for cost reductions, more austerity type of program for the department, in recognition of a number of circumstances that I'll go into in a little bit. And timing on that was excellent, because literally from the day I was confirmed back on January 18th, and even before that, in terms of prior to taking on this position, it became very evident that the department's facing a number of external challenges that have cost impacts associated with that. So one of my early efforts was to start getting my arms around just costs in general with respect to that. So your request to get back to you with a report on what can we do, I think, was very timely. And we have been very busy. By we, I mean all of the senior assistant general managers, some of their staff, and others, our budget staff, have been spending many, many hours. I think they've gotten to know me much better than they would like to as a result of this, in terms of going through what some of these our cost opportunities, cost-cutting opportunities are. And we have a presentation out here, and I'm going to try to go through some of this if I can. It is working. Before we get into the issue of the cost cuts that we're talking about and things that have come out of our extensive evaluations on this, I think it's important to get a context here, and if you'll indulge me a minute, I'll give a little bit of background on this. So I think it's important for us to recognize at least certainly what I perceive to be, and I think others will hold as well, as to what Department of Water and Power's priorities are as it pertains particularly to things that affect our costs. And that is, number one, we have a number of legal mandates here and now in effect today that affect us, that we need to undertake, we need to do, and literally actions by typically regulatory types of entities primarily, that if we were not doing that, we're literally subject to fines. So there's very little degrees of freedom with respect to that. And those are things like in the water side on EPA with the reservoir coverage that we need to do with respect to meeting that requirement, changing over some of our water treatment efforts, again, to meet safe drinking water standards and such. These are items that have been established, been undergoing for quite some time. We got specific programs to execute on those, and we literally have to make those types of actions. On the power side, we see that, we've talked at some of the meetings about the once-through cooling, the ocean cooling reduction or elimination that's established by the State Water Resources Control Board. As one of items, we have requirements for reducing emissions at our in-basin, our air emissions out of plants, so we have specific compliance requirements. Those are types of things that affect our costs, and we literally have very little movement around what we can do to do that. Kind of next down the list, then we're looking at issues that again we're all quite familiar with in terms of our need to replace our aging infrastructure, and we've seen that. We know we have an old system. We're not the only utility that does, but that on the water side with the breakage of pipes that we've seen and issues there, we've got requirements to keep to improve that system. We have at least certainly minimum levels of things we need to do to maintain reliability on our power side with that aging system. So those are types of things that we need to be doing, and they do cost us, and then we need to be moving forward on those. Kind of the next layer down is, well, I talked about our existing mandates. We also have future mandates that we're looking at, and two key ones come to mind immediately, and that is, while we have had both from the board's position and as well as positioned by the mayor of having in the range of 33 to 35% renewable energy portfolio standard goal by 2020, there is now sitting on the governor's desk, approved by both the Assembly and the Senate, a bill to sign in SB 1X2 that now establishes that 33% as for not just ourselves, but all utilities, all electric utilities in California. It's a good thing that we got to our 20%, because now we're going up to 33%. No longer just a goal upon signature by the governor, and expectations are that will happen soon. We now have that mandate on a go-forward basis. We also have Assembly Bill 32, the greenhouse gas requirements administered by Air Resources Board, which you'll recall we all voted on in a public vote back last November on Prop 23, to continue implementing that, including a cap-and-trade program. So that's not here yet. Neither of those are quite here yet, but they are imminent. And all of those types of things are things that we need to be planning for, and thankfully we are planning for some of those items. We go down the list of priorities, we start dealing with things that are a little less obvious and start getting a little more technical and somewhat geeky in nature, to be honest. They interest me and they interest a lot of our staff, but they may not get high profile, but it's updating our technology on both the water and the power side. And on the power side, we're dealing with smart grid related issues and investments, automatic meters that ultimately in the future will hopefully reduce some of our labor costs for automatic meter reading, and things like improved switching within our system that's done on a more automated basis to better respond to the changes that we see with renewable energy are some of those areas. And we have similar types of things in terms of some of the water treatment options that we're looking at in the water side as well. And the last item, which in many people's case should be the first, but in terms of level of discretion around them, is things that we do to invest in the future. And on the water side, that can be issues such that we're dealing with on cleaning up contaminated groundwater up in San Fernando Valley so that we can better store water that we do receive and stormwater that we put in that area. That's an investment now that pays off in the future in terms of reduced water purchases from MWD, for example. On the power side, things such as preparing more for electric vehicles and how that helps utilize our renewable energy that comes from wind, much of which comes at night, typically when energy is going to be coming from wind energy and when electric vehicles are demanding power as they go in. So these are things that we have some discretion on, but they're important activities, and that's, as we go through, each one of those items that mentioned up there all have cost pressures. None of them are free, and all of them are items that we have to deal with. Some we have no choice, and some of which are really important to us. So when I'm talking about those types of costs, those are types of things that we'll be dealing with, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. That's different than what I'm talking about in terms of looking at our cuts. We have to be mindful that we can undertake these activities, that we have the staff and the capabilities to move forward on those as we want to. But I'm talking about generally different types of cuts and different types of costs. Really wanted to look at what we can do today to change the basic business that we have. Just looking at the department as a business, and a big one at that, what we have to look at in terms of labor, operations, and capital costs. So we did that. We spent many weeks going through this and a lot of time and hashing and rehashing and mindful of being able to deal with those first issues I talked about, being able to push forward on that. But what kind of cuts do we have discretion in now? You know, recognizing that before we start dealing with trying to get our arms around all of those other mandates and all those other things that are important, high priorities to us, let's get our basic business as lean and mean as we possibly can, and recognizing that, you know, we don't have shareholders here, we don't have other sources of equity. Everything that costs the department ends up getting paid for by our customers, and we need to be mindful of that. So we started to look at what our near-term opportunities are, and there's a big piece of the pie that we don't have a lot of opportunity. You know, we can't do much about our fuel purchase costs, and we can't do a lot about our purchase power costs, and we don't have as much as we'd like to control what the cost of purchased water is that doesn't come from our own system. We don't have a lot of control over that. So that we're also about 1.5 years into a 5-year labor agreement with our largest union, and that limits our degrees of freedom as well. So we had to look within those realities and where can we focus and where can we take action. And we did, and as shown on up here, number one is looking at, on the labor side, looking at a hiring freeze. And this is not done without forethought, and it won't be executed without mindfully knowing that we need to be able to keep the water flowing, we need to keep the power on, we need to be able to provide customer service. But we have, depending on the year, recently, like almost any large organization does, just kind of given the age of people like myself, of which we have many in this department, who are at or near retirement age, and we're seeing 300-400 people a year depart from the organization, most due to retirement, some due to making other career choices and other issues. We don't control that. We don't determine where within the organization that happens, but it happens. And our goal is going to be backfilling against that only where we need to backfill to make certain that we can keep a reliable system and do what we need to do on a go-forward basis. In addition, and while it's a little challenging, at the same time, we're looking at overtime. We spend a lot of overtime in this organization, in different parts of the organization, typically, most often in the field area, but not field crew area, but not always. And we're looking to make some selective cuts in those areas as well, leaving discretion by the managers in those systems to do what they need to do and to work within our union memorandum of understanding and labor agreements with respect to that. But doing that at the same time you're getting reduced headcount is a bit challenging. We've talked through it. We've worked through it. This isn't just me coming down and saying from a dicta how we're going to do this. We've come up with plans that we believe are quite workable on that. Net, between those two actions and labor alone, we expect to save $75 million just in this upcoming fiscal year. And we're not stopping there. As on the other side of the figure up here is a list of non-labor operation costs on here, starting with, and I'll go quickly through some of these, but they're generally relatively small, but they cumulatively come up to about a first year $20 million savings. And that's number one, is eliminating executive and non-emergency response type senior manager take-home cars. That is, they'll be commuting in on their own instead. There's a pool car that they need available when they're here on something. It's a different matter, but no longer will that cost be incurred by the department. There are other items. We're reducing computer purchases. Doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a lot of people in this company, and it's a lot of computers, and we're going to make them go further before we replace them. We have a number of people that have Department of Water and Power travel credit cards, and I know I think the second day I got here, I was asked to fill out the form report, and I said, no, I don't want one. I said, when I make an expenditure, I want it to be I want to make certain it just goes through my mind. When I sign that credit card slip that happens to be mine, I'm responsible for that, and I'm only going to get reimbursement if reimbursement meets our criteria. It's not by any way to say that I think that there's abuse of it. I think it's a mindset difference that makes us think a little bit more about our expenditures. We have a number of things that we can cut back on that individually aren't a lot, but collectively are significant in terms of cutting our facility refurbishments in the organization, stopping furniture purchases, not doing office remodels. We'll complete the ones that we have. We're not going to leave wires hanging out of receptacles and such, obviously, but we'll finish those. Reducing our office supplies and making sure we only get what we need. Those things collectively start becoming significant size dollars. We just do things better, smarter, and leaner. There's an item that I expect to probably get a little pushback from outside in the community, and that is proposed that we eliminate the holiday lighting festival. And there are probably some of those in the community who live around there that will be pleased not to have exhaust fumes from cars going 2 miles an hour during a good portion of the night throughout the holidays. Others will be concerned about it, but it costs us $1 million every year to do that. And this just isn't the time to be spending $1 million on an item such as that, in my estimation. We'll cut back our non-essential travel, hoping to get about a 25% reduction in that. And we already have started an effort working with our city attorney to increase customer collections from delinquent accounts. And we'll be appropriate with our customers, but that is money that is owed, and if they don't pay their bills, every other customer ends up basically picking up the difference. We've already, in the last month, picked up on the order of $4.5 million that have come in with respect to that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So I think these are smart actions. There's a lot of moving parts around it, but I believe we can execute on all of those. And then there's capital reductions. Capital reductions aren't something that you hit and see immediately, but if you don't move on them now, you see that over a long-term period of time, you see those costs. One of the first ones down on the bottom of this list is doing a bond refinancing, taking advantage of what our current opportunities are to reduce interest costs by refunding bonds and issuing new. We expect to save at least $50 million. We'll know for sure when we go out to the market. We're doing that very soon on those savings. We were about to the point a few weeks back of putting a property purchase on the board for approval for $17 million, and I've stopped that. We're going to find a way to do it without developing and building new facilities with respect to that at a time when we need to cut back. And you'll see today on our board package there's a truck purchase on here. We certainly have to replace old, worn-out trucks, and we have a number of them, but we don't need net new necessarily. So we found a way to cut back out of that. We believe we can save $3 million there. Cumulatively, we're talking about $70 million in cuts. And we're not talking about this just being a one-year event. These are things that we're trying to reset on a go-forward basis. And cumulatively, just on the labor and operating cuts over the next 3 years, we're looking at about $370 million of savings. And add on top of that the $70 million in capital cuts, and we're pushing up against $500 million of savings, about $440 million in cuts, as we look at this on a go-forward basis. We'll look for additional costs. It's been a relatively short period of time to get to this list, but we think they're solid. These are serious cuts. These are meaningful cuts, and they're real. I want to go back to kind of where we go next, because I mentioned as we started out here, and I won't spend a lot of time on this right now, but I started out talking about all of those priorities that we have and things that are programmatic. Again, we tried to make sure and work through, and we will work through to make sure that as we do these things, we're not unduly hampering our ability to move forward with programs that we decide that we want to do and need to do in these various areas. Literally in the coming weeks, we're going to start a public process. Our recommendation, anyway, is to start a public review process of what are those mandatory projects we're talking about. What are the things that in the water and power that we're being obligated by generally regulatory agencies to do, and what's the timing of those, and what are those costs, so we understand what does that percent impact on our customers' rates. What are the investment levels that we think we should do or could do, where we do have some discretion in water and energy efficiency, in that ramp up for renewable energy to get from our 20% that we achieved to hold that and grow to get up to 33%. How much recycled water programs do we want to do? How much additional groundwater cleanup and stormwater capture do we want to do? And lay out some specific costs and what those costs are as we go forward. And then look at what are the future levels of reinvestment that we want to do in our power side and in the water and in the pipelines and valves, et cetera, to do that replacement improvement to make sure that we're not just fixing it when it breaks. And then make decisions going forward as to how do we want to work the issues with respect to our disposition of our coal assets to deal with future carbon reductions and cap and trade. Those are items that are not as part of the cuts. Those are items that we'll be talking about in a very public forum going forward here in the coming weeks, and we'll be giving you more of an update of how we plan to go through that, and we'll be looking for your input on that. So that's the plan that we have going forward. We have action items that we'll be taking on each of these to move forward quickly and to make certain that we get these cuts so that we know that we're operating as lean as we can when we start looking at these other programmatic matters. Glad to take any questions that we have on
Questions
that.
from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you for that report. It's very interesting. I want to commend you for taking upon yourself to, really go and look at where areas can be cut. But tell me, how much of the overall cuts are actually labor? I mean, you have the $75 million figure there, but is that actual, labor dollars that employees will no longer receive? Or? Well,
yeah, it is. I think it's a good question. I think one of the things that I think is sometimes you get a number of numbers that fly around in the public and the media about how much of the department's costs are labor. And as I indicated at the outset here, there's a number of things that simply we don't have control over. Generally, the cost of natural gas, very much over of our purchase power costs, and a lot of these other items that we do out there. Our debt is what our debt is. We're going to make a move to try to reduce costs on that. But labor overall is, when you look at the cost of labor, salaries, expenditures, and benefits, that includes pension and health care benefits, is all in about 23% of our total DWP cost. A little bit different between water and power, but it's not this huge overriding number. And within that, there's only certain degrees of freedom that we can work inside of that. We've got about another 8 or 9% of non-fuel, non-purchase water costs that are O&M related items. So between the two of those items, that's where you have the most freedom to move. And collectively, that's, so we're looking at about 33% of our total costs. We're looking at making most of these reductions are coming out of that because we don't have a lot out of the rest of that pie that we can move. But these are, we don't have, frankly, I don't believe, and others can instruct me otherwise, and you as a commission, I guess, could try to talk me into that or certainly direct me to. But I don't see furloughs right now as being something that works like it does in other elements of government. And that is, we can't decide that somehow we'll just have a little bit less reliability on every other Friday. We just won't answer as many customer calls on those days of furloughs. We have a 24/7, 365-day-a-year operation that we need to do, and I don't believe a furlough is a way that you can get there. And we're not proposing that out of this. This is out of dealing with attrition, not backfilling positions, other than where those critical areas that we need to do.
And if I can ask one more question, what are the impacts of the costs on various programs that DWP has, like some of the renewable energy programs with rebates to customers, the programs that are designed to boost energy efficiency?
Well, we've tried to endeavor, and will as we go forward to execute on this, is to keep the capabilities that we need so that we're able to react in those areas. I don't want to, in advance prescribe what our level of energy efficiency should be, what our level of renewable energy should be, and what our level of investments in our, for example, our reliability program might be incrementally That's something that I want the board to weigh in on, something I want the council to weigh in, or customers and the community to weigh in on. What we're trying to make certain that we do is that we maintain the capability to be able to deal with whatever level of investment that we want to put into those areas.
Thank you.
Well, I also want to commend you on this report. I think it is precisely what we need at this point in time as we look into the possibility of rate increases. It really is imperative that the public understand that we're doing everything we can to minimize the cost that we control. On this issue of cost control, you made the point that we don't control our fuel costs. I know the fuel costs are passed through for the most part, but on the other hand, we do try to hedge. We try to minimize those costs to the extent we can. Is that correct?
You know, we do, but, and this could get into a long discussion, and I know you've got a good fuels background
Not good enough.
from your background in SoCal Gas, Mr. President. But at the end of the day, to a large extent, what a hedging operation does is tends to somewhat cap your costs within a certain band, depending on how you lay out your plans. So it gives you some cost certainty. You're still subject to the vagaries of the market over that, and you try to keep that within some control. And you're constantly changing those hedges and positions over time. But nevertheless, you are still subject to the general trend. And as natural gas prices, for example, keep going up over time, we try to keep that volatility down, but over time, our costs are going to continue to track that general trend.
On the bond savings from the refinancing, is the $50 million, is that an annualized cost, or is that?
That is a net present value.
Net present value.
It is the way it's intended to be structured, as we've worked with our financial advisor and with underwriters here in the last couple of weeks, is that those savings will be very front-loaded, that is over the next few years, more so, much more so that we get those benefits early. It's not like they're going to be trickling out evenly over a 20 or 30 year period of time.
Other questions? Everyone, thank you for the report. I think this is a very good start. Anything else in your general manager report?
No, I think I've taken enough of our time here today.
Okay, I do have a speaker card for this item.
Yes.
Okay, the speaker is Michelle Garrican. And we have a 2-minute time limit. Thank you.
Michelle Garrican. Thanks.
Welcome.
I'm here to speak on the general manager's recent presentation, and I just wanted to let the commission know that the LA Business Council supports the general manager's decision to explore labor and operations budget reduction with a target of $95 million and pursue cost savings through property management, financing, and vehicles for another 70. We believe this is a baseline reduction from which the DWP will then evaluate overall budgets and programs. And we look forward to you guys moving forward to develop a budget, revenue requirement, and rate structure that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple more speaker cards. The next one is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA, also DWP liaison for the LA 32 Neighborhood Council. It would have been nice if we knew what was going to be presented during this particular report. We'd also like to have copies of the presentation so that we can figure out what was just said, because it has a lot of implications. But going back to the simple things, as agreed, this is one of the largest corporations in the United States, and thereby kind of in the world, especially municipals. Where's the strategic plan? Whatever happened to that thing? We had it a couple years ago, then it slowly kind of withered away, I guess. And what did we just go through? What we just went through should be strategically compared to a strategic plan that has been accepted. Talk about policies? Wow, lots of policies. One of my favorite is the 290-year replacement cycle for water pipes. And we're having water pipes replaced in LA 32 Neighborhood Council area, thank you very much, but nobody notified us of it. And we're trying to paint some fire hydrants, but we had to stop painting in one area because they were being replaced. We didn't know. So down at the bottom level, top level, information, transparency, accessibility. So we're still kind of wondering, where's the strategic plan for the Department of Water and Power for the City of Los Angeles? Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next speaker is Ann Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Williams with the Central City Association. The Central City Association represents about 400 businesses employing over 300,000 people in the Los Angeles region, and CCA was the business community's leading voice last spring when the DWP proposed a substantial rate increase. During the course of that intense discussion, it became clear that the feeling among our member businesses was that times are tough and we in the private sector have tightened our belts. And if the DWP can't share the pain, they shouldn't be asking us to pay for rate increases. But in 2011, we see a different culture gradually taking over at DWP. We are encouraged by the appointment of a permanent general manager in Ron Nichols and by the open dialogue we've had with him already in his short time here. We feel that he has been proactive in checking in with the business community, members of which are in fact the DWP's biggest customers. So today I'm here to acknowledge the importance of the department's expenditure reduction proposal. We know that there are things the department cannot control, such as some of the renewable energy mandates, but the fact that the department is starting to make the tough decisions that we've all had to make in this economic climate gives us in the business community confidence that the DWP will attempt to meet its mandates as cost effectively as possible. So thank you for your attention, and we look forward to learning more about the proposed cost-cutting measures.
I just need to ask Mr. Doug Arsenault. You didn't put down A or B for number 37. I just needed to clarify which one you wanted to speak on.
It's this item.
Huh? This item? Okay. All right. Then go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, directors. My name is Doug Arsenault. I'm the Legislative Affairs Manager for the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, VICA. We represent over 360 businesses that have generated 100,000 jobs in the city of Los Angeles and its surrounding areas. On behalf of VICA and its membership, I commend Mr. Nichols for his recommendations to streamline DWP, including operational reductions, shrewd property management, smart financing, and limited vehicle usage, amounting to more than $165 billion of essential cost savings. These revisions are something our members and the City Council have been calling for as necessary and prudent measures for our city, and show true fiscal responsibility for DWP and looking internally before increasing rates for customers, commercial and residential. Such revisions are vital to efficient and effective operations within a feasible budget. Thank you for this opportunity, and again, thank you to Mr. Nichols and his team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last card I had for that item.
Let me make the point that we're going to defer item 14. So that's,
I have a general comment.
no, we'll have public comments coming up. Yeah, we'll give you an opportunity. Sorry. Yeah. Any questions from the commissioners on DWP operations? Questions or comments?
I only have a few requests to ask questions about some of the items for approval must be discussed.
We'll go to those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But on operations, any comments or questions from the commissioners?
I applaud your consciousness with what businesses and home ratepayers are taxed with in this day in the economy, and I know a lot of this is led by our president's sales. So I thank you for taking the initiative, the work, and finding a way to really address the people's concerns about moving forward with the rates that they're paying. So thank you.
Can I just have a vote, please, for the deferring number 14?
Yes. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Hearing no objection, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. So with public comment, we have 6 cards for public comment? Is that
Just
right?
about, yes.
Okay.
Okay, the first public speaker is Richard Dopsey, and then after that will be Sally Neubauer.
Good afternoon. I'm Richard Dapsey. I'm with Avaya Inc. And Avaya is seeking through public comment today review of contract specification 987 for the purchase and installing of Avaya's Nortel product line. The RFP was awarded and approved by this board in June 2010. It was Avaya's understanding that DWP's Information Technology Services created this contract with intent to provide relief for a large number of users utilizing older products and to foster a competitive environment within the information technology. Today, with months of preparation being completed, ITS has decided not to move forward with the intended projects and engineered pricing. Instead, ITS has coerced and mandated Avaya's partner to agree to a new line item in their contract for the implementation of a competing product, that being Cisco Systems. Fulfilling Contract 987 as intended is a stable and known quantity. The contract will have not only save the department over $1 million for time and expense, but it will also create a competitive landscape that's been missing in the DWP's Department of IT and management posture for over six and a half years. ITA wishes to install a temporary Cisco solution for consolidating that end up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional software and hardware being wasted. If you're going to do that with a Cisco contract, not with a contract that says Avaya on it. Point being is the same Cisco temporary solution is known to be unstable, is too complex, and will be in the same situation that the department is in with their contact center, that being not being able to meet the self-maintained environment at the tune of over $900,000 per year. The city warned about this in 2008, and we're going to do it again today. You're heading down the road of expending more money than you need to expend in the same time when you're talking about making savings. The request of this board is to communicate the intent of the contract to the public. Time and money has been wasted on the part of Avaya, Avaya's partner, and to a larger extent DWP. Why did these projects get stopped at the issuing of a supplemental PO? Why is ITS attempting to use money from this contract to implement a competing product? My request is to have a response.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Sally Neubauer, and after that, Peter Griswold.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sally Neubauer. I'm Assistant President of the Citizens Committee to Save Elysian Park. I'm here today to talk about Elysian Reservoir and the Water Quality Improvement Program that was referred to a little bit ago by Mr. Nichols. It's part of the covering or filtering of all the open water reservoirs in the city of Los Angeles. This program's been going on for about 20 years, and I have been part of a group called the Coalition to Preserve Open Reservoirs that has met in mediation with department staff for the last 20 years to try to resolve the fate of these open reservoirs in a manner that is both acceptable to the community and to the department. Currently, Elysian Reservoir, which sits in a beautiful 40-acre canyon in Elysian Park, has its draft EIR ready for review, and it's anticipated the final environmental impact report will be ready by August, and that you will be voting on the solution in September, in early September. So I wanted to, again, invite you. I sent you an email about a week and a half ago inviting you for a tour of Elysian Reservoir, and I would like to reissue that invitation, and the Secretary can give me that information if any of you are interested. Elysian is unique in that it is the only drinking water reservoir in a city park. And not only is Elysian a city park, it's a regional city park that serves the inner city. It's a very, very well-used and heavily used park for East LA, South LA, and Highland Park. We had several public meetings in addition to our 20 years of mediation in the community, at which the several solutions that we had worked on were presented to the community, and among them were the EIR project, which was for the buried tanks with landscape covering and an aluminum roof and a floating cover roof. The community response was overwhelmingly for the buried tanks with landscaping on top, because it's the only solution that would not only protect the beauty of the 40-acre park canyon, but would also add 14 acres of usable, playable park space for our kids for the future.
Could you wrap up your remarks, please?
So I really would like to reiterate the importance of Elysian Park as a vital part of the community, and I hope that you will consider this as you make your decision. And once again, I invite you for a tour.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Peter Griswold, and after that, Dr. Clyde Williams.
Mr. Griswold?
Yes. Dale just took my photographs away. I think he was going to distribute them to you. So there's a lot of important items going on here today, so to control my tongue, I'll just read this short statement. About mid-February, a couple of workers with equipment dug 3 holes in the alley to prepare a water meter upgrade for a major expansion. They left the meter hole open with an A-frame and a pile of rubble next to it, with loosely filling the 2 holes with dirt and asphalt. About 3 weeks later, the contractor filled the holes because they were sinking and to resist accidents and flat tires. And finally, after a couple of more weeks, the work got permanent asphalt, which is still sinking. By then, the meter box is already depressed, and one corner is leaving a permanent puddle hole. And during 5 weeks of bothering the neighborhood, the workers may have charged maybe 4 days to this job over the 5 weeks. As a 41-year construction estimator, 32 of them with the department, I know this job shouldn't have taken more than a couple of days. I bring this to your attention because of neighbors' complaints, and it's just one small golden hammer.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker. Oh.
Clyde Williams.
Yeah. Dr. Clyde Williams, and after that, Tony Wilkinson.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Thank you for the paint. We've already used most of it up. We were also told that, well, when you finish this lot, you can always buy it from Home Depot. This is for DWP facilities. We're continuing to finish up what paint we do have, and we have completed pretty much all of Huntington Drive, pretty much all of the Berkshire Maycrest area, the hills between Van Horn and Maycrest, and Rose Hills, and parts of the area along Huntington Drive, not directly on the drive. So we're looking for more paint. Why? It takes us about 15, 20 minutes to do a fire hydrant, and we get them done eventually, not all at one time. But we try to use volunteer labor. Doesn't cost you anything to get your fire hydrants repainted. We would like to have some notice as to when the water pipes and the fire hydrants are going to be replaced in our area. But we do need more paint. We've done over probably about 120, 130 fire hydrants right now. It takes 1 can of paint to do 1 fire hydrant with the paint that we were provided with. Other paints have more paint pigment in them and do a better job. However, we'll take almost anything we can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkinson.
Tony Wilkinson, Chair of the Neighborhood Council, Department of Water and Power Memorandum of Understanding Oversight Committee. I would like to welcome Commissioner Moss. I'm actually a participant in the Panorama City Neighborhood Council, so from my corner of the neighborhood. And certainly I'd like to join with everyone else who's commended the General Manager for his approach to reducing department costs in these challenging times, and also particularly for the public outreach process that he's going to launch for a public dialogue on the department expenditures. This is a core issue that the Neighborhood Council MOU on behalf of the whole greater community is interested in, and so thank you for both of those. I do note the closed session later on the agenda, for which includes almost all of the department's labor partners, collective bargaining partners. The subject of that obviously can't be disclosed, but it is true that local government, including the department, can't really solve structural financial issues without full partnership with our labor partners. And so I would hope in some way that that is part of that dialogue. And finally, I do note on the consent agenda item number 28 for reducing the interest rate for the pensions from 8% to 7.75% to match the return expectations for the pension plan based on a 2008-2009 survey. And in this market, that it does raise the issue that is the rate of return currently expected appropriate in this market. It's a huge financial issue for the department, and we'll need to address that as well as capital items when we deal with budgeting. Thank you.
Okay, that was the last speaker card for number 4. And for the next group, I have speaker cards for 15, 17, and 18.
Let me go through the items where there are no speaker cards. Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm right about this. And if the commissioners want to pull any of these items, just let me know. Seven, 10 through 14, 16, and 19 through 30. There are no speaker cards, no commissioner comments on those items. Okay. Is there a motion to approve those items of the consent agenda?
I actually would like to pull item 16. I just have a question about item 16, as well as items 6, 8, and 9.
Yeah, I didn't. Did I mention those?
I thought you said 16.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you said 16.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and what else?
6, 8, and 9, please.
I got those. Okay, let's
Thank you.
do this again. So we're going to go item 7, items 10 through 14, 19 through 30.
Except for 16.
Not 16. Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second?
Hearing no objection, those items pass. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Second.
Hearing no objection, the minutes are approved. Item 6, Commissioner Noonan had a question.
Thank you.
Who's going to present that item?
Michael Sullivan, Lisa Turco.
Have a seat.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
I realize that this is not a huge cost item. However, given prior discussions that this board has had about allowing credits to be freely given to employees, I'm particularly concerned about that moving forward. So I would like to know how these fuel card services will be audited.
Well, currently, that's a good question. We're doing an audit right now with
Okay.
our internal audit organization. These cards are used out of the basin only, traditionally with jobs that are done on tower lines, anywhere that any of our liquid fuel stations are not available. And so currently, we are auditing the usage of those cards, have made some changes that have been sent out recently from our CAO's office on the correct usage and what is and is not required or what is authorized to be used on those contracts.
Well, I will share my personal opinion, which Mr. Nichols touched upon. Being an independent contractor, when I expense things, I charge them on my credit card, and then I request a reimbursement, and that reimbursement has to be approved, audited, and then provided. And I think that just makes for a more conservative approach to expending things. So that said, I'll just echo kind of your direction in that regard. And I appreciate you stating that an audit is taking place, and I anticipate that they will continue to take place often and frequently should this system continue in place?
Well, the invoices, when they're processed through our staff each month, they're audited. They're audited prior to being sent to us by each section head, and then we audit those before we actually make payment.
Okay.
So there's requirements on each transaction. If those aren't met, then we, of course, we refuse payment on that invoice, and then it goes back. So.
Well, I have a high regard for the department. At the same token, I don't want any abuses taking place to protect the ratepayers. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Just to clarify, we're talking about, these are employees, not independent contractors.
That's correct. These are our department employees driving department equipment, doing work that is outside LA's basin, where any of our owned liquid fuel stations are.
And I want to echo Commissioner Noonan's concern. While it's not the amount of money, it's we just cannot have any incidents of fraud, given the environment right now. So you have to make sure, and I'm sure you will, that you really carefully look at these expenses.
Yeah, we do. We are.
Mr. President, I noticed that the term of this agreement is 9 months, beginning November 1st, 2010, and ending July 30th, 2011. Is that correct?
Correct.
Why is this being brought to the Commission at this time? It's almost halfway over.
What happened here is that these are very complex situations with fuel cards, and we were going to piggyback off the city's program because of the lack of their labor. They did not execute their agreement that they had, so we didn't have any ability to put anything together quick enough. Unfortunately, that's the way we've been behaving for the last few years, is dealing like that, and right now I guess the city has other means to pay for these kind of services, so it kind of left us out there without the ability to.
As you see, it's not uncommon for us to try to piggyback on citywide agreements. So it sounds like what happened is we thought there was going to be a citywide agreement. Turns out there wasn't. Then we were left scrambling to try to fix it midterm. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're tied to their, whatever their agreement is, we're tied to that time frame.
So currently we're putting something out right now so we can have something out on the street that's going to be our own.
I assume that once, after August 1st, you're going to assume that you're going to take on this burden yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, this is just an interim to fill that gap until the permanent contract that we will manage will go out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other comments on item 6? Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
Hearing no objection, item 6 is approved. Thank you. Item 8. Who's presenting that matter? You can just stay there.
I'm just going to stay. I'll be here a while.
Make yourself comfortable.
Fausto Cetino from Pleda Engineering.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time, gentlemen. I think this is very poignant since your general manager, our general manager, spoke about cost cuts and being very, very deliberate on our expenditures. I'm just curious as to what will happen with the 612 replacement units. In your memo, you ask for us to approve this expenditure, but there's no mention about will these trucks be sold, where will the revenue go, so I'd like some kind of background as to how it works.
Well, part of, I believe, what our general manager discussed in our reduction in truck purchases is there are actually 3 line items in these specs. One is to replace what's considered owned equipment. Those are just straight replacements. And then there's another line item in there called additions. And those were additions to our existing fleet where we have additional staff hirings or bigger, more capital jobs being done. And then there's a third option in there. It's called an optional addition. Okay, those optional additions we are not obligated to purchase, even though they're in the spec. So we are reducing those numbers, right, and that's part of his reduction, which is 100 units. So that's over $3 million that he was talking about. So those numbers are gone. These vehicles that are going to be replaced, actually we have an auction contract where these trucks are then delabeled, picked up by the auction company, made safe, and then sold at a public auction, which we obviously make public to all the other cities. And then they're partnered with other utilities, so they're pretty big auctions.
And that income stream returns to the department?
Correct. The money then, at that point, the vehicles, even though they sit in salvage, they're still assigned to whatever using division, whether it be water, power, or joint. And so the return on those auctions goes back to those business units as a credit, if you would.
I have a question now. The total amount that you're asking us to approve, is that net of the reductions that Mr. Nichols was talking about, or is that inclusive?
No, that'll be a reduction off of this, because those are optional units, optional ads that won't be exercised.
I see. So should we be reducing the amount that we're approving today then?
No, that's not necessary, because we're not asking for those additional purchases. We've agreed not to purchase the 100 units.
Yeah, and the approval to purchase those additional units would have to come from the general manager.
So I'll tell you, when I first saw this, I said, this is a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
$28 million. So what I asked Ron to do is go through and scrub this very carefully. As I understand, this is an open purchase order, right, fundamentally, and we will buy these vehicles as we need them, right? This is not a...
No. What we've done is we've identified in our fleet of pickup trucks, which is well over 1,400 trucks. That's really our working vehicle, if you would, for the department. What we've done is we looked at every one of those units at its life cycle and at its mileage, and deemed on what its maintenance costs would be and also its life cycle. These numbers represent not 100% of actually what should be replaced. We're retaining actually quite a few of those that have lower mileage, even though they've exceeded what we consider the life cycle. And those are replaced at another time, probably within the next 3 years.
So the decision is based on the mileage on the car?
It's based on age, mileage, and maintenance costs. We may have a truck that's earlier, let's say, early in its life cycle that has, for some instance, a high maintenance cost, or let's say it's been in an accident where the repair costs would exceed the value of the vehicle. So we did scrub this, trust me. There was a countless hours spent on the request from the general manager's office down. So the numbers have been reduced.
So let me ask you, why is the MBE requirement or participation so low on this contract? 0.4%.
Well,
I mean, there are minority car dealers in the world. This is not, specialty items.
We put out notices to many retail, if you will, automotive truck retailers. We're surprised at some that don't bid. Traditionally, there's a handful that do. It's a lot of work. We require a lot of information, a lot of insurance requirements. There's inspection requirements, again, the MBE requirements that a lot of the smaller dealerships, if you will, really don't have the staff to do. And so to bid on this and come in at such a cost that would be awardable, there's no profit margin in it for them. So traditionally, that's the reason. They just let it go. They come into the meetings. We actually recruit them. They show a high interest. But when the pencil hits the paper, there's just not enough profit in it for them.
Well, that's interesting, though, because on Bob's, there was 0.4%, but on Reynolds Buick, there was 18%. Mm-hmm. So how do you explain the difference?
Well, Reynolds Buick is in a very unique situation where General Motors did not even have a compliant engine up until within the last 6 months. So their agency, they probably employ more maybe Weebies than Wondries does. And they were able to successfully bid on this.
Also, there's more winches and accessories on this other grouping. And
now, what does that mean? Winches?
Well, that means that they're able to contract that out, sub it out, and they're able to get the smaller businesses to go in with them in this procurement contract.
I don't know how the other commissioners do, but I'm very uncomfortable with this. It seems that there are clearly minority contractors in the world who can do this work, and somehow one recipient figures it out and the other one doesn't. So maybe there's something I'm missing. But
President Sales, I totally appreciate your comments. And to kind of take off his comments, I would really appreciate you giving me a historical record on how often we've done business with Bob Windry's Motors in the past, what did you say, 10 years? 10, 15 years? Just for a historical record. And on a side note, I will state that I know General Services has met with many real estate groups to try and streamline the RFP process, to try and recruit more people to bid on assignments. And there were many, many, many great feedback responses that were given to streamline that process. And I would be happy to share those with you, because if we are deterring a greater level of competition where we can leverage better rates for our ratepayers, I think we should take some of those recommendations under consideration.
No, I would, accept any assistance. I can tell you that we are very aggressive on our recruiting on these. A perfect example is our liquid fuel contract. Traditionally, we go out with over 25 or 30 proposals that are hand-delivered or mailed, and unfortunately, we only get about 10 or 12% response. There's just not enough of a profit margin in them, for them to want to bid with us. And, we've even actually gone after some of the larger agencies like BP, and they basically told me flat out, I don't do enough volume for them to even do business with me. So we do try to deal with the smaller agencies. The problem is there's just not enough profit in it for them.
What I just want to deter is the perception of favoritism.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not talking just about this department, but I know that there's other contracts within the city where certain entities do not even want to bid because they feel as if they're bidding against themselves, that department, that city agency already has relationships. And we for sure want to make sure that that's not going on here.
Oh, yeah, and I can assure you that from our vehicle purchasing side, that is not the case. We are very receptive to any of the smaller businesses coming in. We try to encourage them, and we meet with them on a regular basis. So they come in as a sub, obviously, because they can't fund, from the bidder standpoint as a primary. Plus, the manufacturers don't sell to them direct. So, but they'll do the body fit-ups and such. And so, as Fausto mentioned, that's where a lot of the maybe count from Reynolds came in.
I'm curious, how many of the bidders were located in the city of Los Angeles?
I don't have that number in front of me, but
Well, all of the dealerships that we know can bid, we've contacted. And the bidders who actually were in the LA area, I don't have a count of that right now.
I can tell you that I personally have spoken to management at agencies such as Galpin, and they kind of nod and smile and say, yes, we're aware of those contracts, and never see a bid from them.
Have you ever sat down with them and asked them why they've never bid?
I have.
What's
and
the
they said that they are interested, and they'll look at the spec, and that's the last I hear.
We've also gotten responses that they are just not set up for it. They don't have someone to deal with the fleet issues, just the people coming off the street, you and I going to buy a single vehicle. They're not set up for fleet contracts.
So how is the money divided between the two entities? It's the overall amount of the contract is $28 million. Is it open, and then we will pick and choose between the two?
No, it's broken up into groupings. And each of the, and we do that so we can get more competitive bidding. We don't just lump it out as one contract and you have to bid on all options.
So how much money is in here for Bob Windry's of the $28 million?
6.7.
Okay, it's up to my commission, but I'm inclined to approve this for Reynolds Buick, but not for Bob's, because I'm not convinced Bob's made a good faith effort, given the fact that the competitor was able to have 18% in their contracts. But I want to hear from the other commissioners.
I second the motion.
We'll go along with that.
Any other comments? So you now understand what we're saying is we're approving this, but only with respect to Reynolds Buick. If in the future Bob's Windry's can demonstrate to us that they've made a good faith effort with respect to their MBE, what's interesting is they appear to have done a good job on the WBE side. It's just, I'm struggling to try to reconcile the two. So the motion that's before us is to approve with respect to, before I do this, let me ask one more question. What's the WBE requirement for rentals? What if there's no, because we have, Bob did 18 on WBE, but there's no number for rentals.
Well, I think part of the reason you're seeing a lower number with the Wondry's proposal is those vehicles that he has been awarded in Group A don't require a considerable amount of additional fit-ups. Those are more of what you would consider off-the-shelf type purchase. You have minor fit-ups on those vehicles.
I'm sorry, which on the rentals?
On Wondry's. Where rentals, those require more fit-ups, I believe, and so those are going to require additional outside smaller companies to do work on them. So I think that's why he's able to come in with additional maybe on those two, which is B and C of the spec.
So on the rentals piece, what's the WBE participation?
Do you have that in front of you?
Are you referring to the goals?
No.
This is Anselmo Collins, Acting Director of Supply Chain Services.
I'm sorry?
Just trying to understand the question, that's all.
In Reynolds Buick, you have an MBE participation of 18.09%, right?
Yes.
You have an OBE, right, of 0.24. What's the WBE participation?
0. If
Why
it's
is
not
that?
listed here, it's 0, correct.
Why is that?
More than likely, they didn't find a sub that they felt that they could work with that would give them a decent price. So when they put out their, do their good faith effort, they're looking for companies that will also make them competitive when they they actually do put a bid. So the good faith effort is the effort they make to reach out to all these different companies and have them work with them and provide competitive bids. If they didn't provide one or didn't feel that they got one that made them competitive, they could have chosen to self-perform the entire work. Because the good faith effort is it's a goal and it's an effort, not the actual participation.
I know what the goal is.
Yeah. So for this contract, if it doesn't appear here, the answer is 0.
So the question is, why is it that Bob could find 18% women contractors, right? But Reynolds found 0. Why is that?
I couldn't tell you that.
You should be able to.
That would be a question that we would have to go back to the bidders and ask them. I think part of it, too, that needs to be looked at is whether or not they did get some...
Stop. We're going to defer this matter.
Okay.
Bring it back, and just I want to give a future comment. It is not in your best interest to bring us contracts that you don't have real clear evidence of what you've done with respect to WBE and MBE participation. Right? And it is particularly not in your best interest not to note what the WBE participation is, and for us to have to assume that it's 0. If it's 0, tell us that.
Okay, very good. We can do that moving forward, sir.
So
yeah.
As from my point of view, I think we should defer this item, but it's not just this item. I want you to think about all of these contracts before you come before this commission, because as Commissioner Noonan says, at the heart of this is getting the costs down for our ratepayers. And we believe the broader the pool, the better the chances are of us getting better prices for equipment and ultimately having we reduce our rates for our customers.
If I may, I personally will be always looking at contracts to see whether the City of LA providers are being included, and if they're not being included, I'd like to know why.
Oh, they are.
I think when you look at business tax and other revenue that can flow back to the city, it's actually costing the entire city less by using city-based agencies and providers.
Yeah, I can assure you.
Our contracts are advertised through the city's business assistant virtual network. So we ensure that anybody who's registered with the City of Los Angeles and or with DWP actually gets notified when these opportunities do arise. So they get notified electronically. But I completely understand your point.
And by the way, we're not questioning the department's effort.
No, I understand.
I'm not convinced that the bidders get it. They were serious about this. I know you're working very hard. But I don't think they believe that we're serious about imposing these goals on people. So we're going to defer this matter. You can bring it back when you can better reconcile the numbers on of small business and minority business participation.
Well,
Okay.
we'll work with purchasing and make sure that those numbers.
So that takes us to item 9.
Can I have a vote for the deferral, please?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any opposition? Matters deferred. Item number 9, Commissioner Noonan.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me once again. But I do think that all of these requests really, really connect with General Manager Nichols' pursuit to reduce costs at DWP. And not only am I requesting this information for myself, but I'm requesting it for the ratepayers. I would like some information as to why we need 69 new units and 10 additional units. I know we're trying to be very cognizant about keeping costs down. So if you could just give us some feedback, some information as to why we need this expenditure and what kind of work is going on to require that we take on these new expenditures to handle this work.
Okay, well, currently we have approximately 170 of these rough terrain vehicles. We call them rough terrain. They're basically SUVs, hybrids, if you will. They're in our fleet now with an average mileage of almost 90,000 miles. These also have a service life of 4 years, because they are traditionally used off-road, and the average age of what we have now is 6 years. So we've exceeded the estimated life cycle based on the years, and they're up on mileage. So these are, in essence, due for replacement, overdue, if you would.
Now this is a very naive question, so forgive my ignorance, but is the 4-year hallmark, is that just customary with municipality vehicles?
It's an industry standard for utilities.
Okay.
So what we do is we pull a lot of the utilities, and with the manufacturer's assistance, and with industries such as Chatham Consulting, and that's how we kind of base our replacement cycle. Some we exceed, and some we actually replace sooner.
Okay.
And then on top of that, there's 45 hybrids, like I had mentioned to you. Well, they're all, but we have additional 45 units. Those have an average mileage of 22,000 and an average age of 2 years, a life of 4 years. So those we're keeping in our fleet. So again, these is a small portion of what we would consider a rough terrain type vehicle that the department owns, that are used in, unique situations such as in the aqueduct region where they're going off-road quite often.
I guess my question, though, is in the memo that I was provided, it states 23 replacement units, which I understand, the 4-year benchmark, but then it speaks to 69 new units and 10 additional units.
Right.
And so I'm just curious as to what is requiring this purchase. What is the extra workload
The
that's
69,
requiring?
the 69 additional units are going to be replacing what we call retained units. Those are units that should have been sold, that went to salvage, and that were brought back out of salvage. And they're also going to be replacing our rental units. We have quite a few high rentals.
Terminology. So 23 replacement units and 69 new units. It's
Right.
You
The
categorize
additions are going to
differently.
replace vehicles brought back out of salvage that weren't sold because they were required by the water power business units. And the 10 optional units, again, those we're not tied to. Those are there in the contract based on the power and water or joint requirements as additional optional units, which we are not going to exercise. Those we're not tied to.
May I respectfully suggest that in the future you footnote new units as replacement units in that
The
capacity?
semantics,
Yeah,
right.
the semantics are kind of off-throwing.
Right.
Thank
So
you.
we can do that.
So I just want to clarify, you're not expanding the fleet at all with this contract?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's the maybe-weeby situation on this contract?
Do you have that?
For this particular contract, based on the kind of work that's being performed, in this case, it's actually delivering vehicles, there was not a good faith effort requirement.
Why not?
Good faith effort requirements is usually based on historical, based on previous contracts and a type of contract it is. In this case, all they're doing is providing a vehicle. There isn't a labor component to it. It's like buying materials. So an evaluation was done, and based on previous contracts, based on research that was done by my staff, it was determined that there was no good faith effort. So that was not a requirement in this particular
Okay,
contract.
I know why you made the decision. What's the legal basis for your decision?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by legal basis.
In some contracts, we have NEB
Correct.
requirements. Others,
Yes.
we don't. What's the distinction?
The basic distinction is where we see that there is an opportunity, and we have evidence that there is an opportunity to actually have subcontracting opportunities. Obviously, there is a cost incurred by the contractors as well as an effort internally to do the good faith effort. And if there is no evidence that there is a reasonable amount of subcontracting available, the requirement is not put there. But every single contract is evaluated prior to going out to make this determination.
So this is for a vehicle, right?
Correct.
So why couldn't Bob, good old Bob, have partnered with another minority-owned firm to meet a portion of the requirement?
I think when looking at vehicles, it depends on the type of vehicle that you're getting. Are you getting a vehicle that is pretty much off the shelf, where you don't have additional items being added onto it that you can actually subcontract? So based on that information, my staff works diligently with our fleet services group. We look at these things on an individual basis, and if we don't see it, and there is no proof that there is that opportunity, the good faith effort requirement is not put. We do encourage them to subcontract as possible, but the good faith effort requirement is not part of this spec. And in this particular case, it wasn't.
So it's not the law, it's the department's interpretation of when we should apply the good faith requirements.
I would say so, yes, sir. I don't think there's a law that says that you have to do good faith effort, correct? There is a city policy that we follow, and the evaluation for whether or not to use it is based on our supply diversity group, who's responsible for looking at all these contracts, working with the requisitioner to ensure that where there is an opportunity, that we actually take advantage of it.
Okay. Since I'm in the slow reading group, I want to still make sure I understand why in this case you decided that there was not enough potential subcontracting here to require good faith on the part of the bidder.
Mm-hmm. Once again, in this particular case, more than likely the type of vehicles being purchased are vehicles that are pretty much off the shelf, where the opportunities for somebody else, a subcontractor, to provide some kind of service into it was very limited.
I'm extremely uncomfortable with the department making these kinds of decisions. Okay. We don't even, I mean, the way to find out if there's a market is to put it out there, ultimately. I mean, that's the test, right? It's not us making that, predetermining the outcome. I'll defer to my commissioners, but I would send this back to you and say, you got to have a better explanation. And I know this situation arises in other cases, so we won't send them all back now.
Yes, sir.
But here's one where at least I'm inclined to want to send this back for a real clear explanation and a policy statement on when we apply the good faith requirements and when we don't, right? And quite frankly, I want to take the discretion out of the department, right? So, I mean, we ought to err on the side of requiring good faith. Because again, ultimately, we think it'll bring the cost down for our customers. Comments or feelings from the other?
I completely echo your sentiments, especially during this time where transparency is so vital to this department. It's been said and said again. I know that our general manager preaches it and wants to live by it, and I know that this board feels the same way. So given the climate that we're in, I completely support the motion to defer this until you can bring greater clarification as to the methodology of when you go out to bed and when you do not.
Very good. Is there a motion to defer the item?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And we're not picking on Bob, we just want to, we need a policy, we need policy clarification on this issue. And I think this is just an opportunity to do that. So, hearing no objection, the motion to defer passes.
Mr. President, I want to make sure we will follow up and make sure that we have across the board a clear articulation of what our MBE, WBE, any disabled vets, et cetera, policies are. We get that clarified. We'll find a way to review that with you so you're all familiar with it, and that we make sure that we're abiding by it as tightly as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Just so I'm clear, I don't think anyone's doing anything malicious. I just think we just need to kind of think this through and clarify it. So. I think you guys work very hard and do a really good job.
No, I can assure you from fleet engineering standpoint, where the spec is developed and put out on the street, we do work closely with all the agencies. They know it's out there, and then once the bid comes back, we do rely obviously on purchasing to go through the spec and make sure that they meet all the obligations. But I can assure you that these packages don't get mailed off to one or two dealerships, you know, and based on the numbers that have been coming back on a per item cost, it's been extremely low. We're buying vehicles at 2006 prices right now. Yes.
If you don't mind, I'd also like to add that we do
And they're
have
not
a
2006 vehicles, right?
Well, we can talk off the record.
Okay. All right.
We do have a process that we do follow. We also have a written evaluation that is done by our supply diversity group when they evaluate each contract. So that is something that we don't include currently with the board letter. We do have it. That's something we can provide if you need to see that, and it would basically explain the conclusions, how we reach the conclusion whether or not we should have a good faith effort requirement in a contract or not have it. So there is a process that we follow, and it is documented as well. Just want to make sure that was clear. That's all.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 15, I believe we have a speaker.
Yes, I have a few speaker cards for 15.
Yes.
Okay, the first speaker is Jessica Goodhart.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jessica Goodhart, and I'm with the Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy and part of the new Repower LA Coalition, which believes that DWP can lead the way to a clean energy future while putting LA residents to work. We wanted to thank you in advance today for supporting this ambitious program, the Utility Pre-Craft Trainee Program, that we believe is going to be a really important pipeline for community members to get good jobs in the department, and also can be a building block for an expanded energy efficiency program that can help the department meet its environmental goals in the future. Over the next year, you probably know that these trainees hired under this program, many of them are going to be put to work doing weatherizing the homes of low-income customers. There is much more work to be done in energy efficiency, retrofitting homes and businesses, measuring and verifying savings, reaching out to customers. Repower LA, and there were more members here who unfortunately had to leave. We see this position as a key building block for an energy efficiency program that will help customers save money on their bills as energy prices rise and we have to transition to more expensive renewable power. And it's also going to bring in people to the department at a time, right, when many staff people are of retirement age. So really this is just to thank department staff, to thank IBW Local 18 for creating this program and this 18-month training program, and to really let you know that there's broad support in the community. We had a town hall with over 120 folks there, environmentalists, representatives of small business, community members, some of whom are here today. And there was tremendous excitement in the community for this program, and I think, as we know, that folks are really hurting right now. And with that, I'll just say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next.
I simply just want to state that I'm familiar with the organization and really applaud the department for taking on and approving item 15 on the agenda. I think it's wonderful for all Angelinos.
Is that the last public?
No, I have 3 more cards. The next speaker is Abraham Hernandez, and after that, Selvin Peterman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Manuel Hernandez, actually. I'm Abraham's older brother. He is one of the members of the organization that had to step away earlier today. I'm actually a community organizer with strategic concepts in organizing and policy education. Membership-driven organization in South Los Angeles, been around for about 18 years. And on a daily basis, I talk to the residents of South Los Angeles about the hard choices that folks have been making because of the hard economic times. And just recently, I participated in other hearings through the MTA, through the DWP, where some really great policies have been passed that can help me bring back really good news to the members of my organization and the residents of South Los Angeles, like the creation of good-paying jobs through these policies, and particularly in this case, the UPCT program. My younger brother Abraham was at IBW Local 11 a few months ago, where he stood in line at the crack of dawn to sign the book for the UPCT program. He has not gotten a call back, but he is very hopeful that he will be called and screened for this program. But I'm not here advocating for one position for my younger brother. I'm here advocating for a program that will create good-paying careers through the DWP, through the IBW Local 11, for hundreds and hopefully thousands of residents in South Los Angeles and communities like South Los Angeles. So I applaud the hard work and the approval of the UPCT program and that this body has decided to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Selvin Peterman, and after that, Robert Sardernick.
Hi, and thank you for having me today. I'd like to commend the Department of Water and Power and this commission, and also the coalition with the Land Coalition and Scope, with Shields for Families, job development specialists. I see exactly what these jobs could do for the community down in South Central where I actually work. South Central is one of the hardest hit areas as far as the unemployment state. As a job developer with Shields for Families, we create training programs for bringing, how can you say, better job possibilities for our residents and for the people that we work with, such as fiber optics, cable technician certification, medical billing, and also administrative assistant type training courses. I see what these type of jobs do in terms of uplifting the individuals within the area. For this commission, as far as what you're trying to do with the Repower LA Coalition and utility pre-craft training program, it would be a great uplift for the community down in my area. The training programs that we have are very successful in finding employment for those type of individuals, even individuals with barriers and so on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, it's IBW Local 18 through the UPCT program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Robert Sardernick.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Zardeneta. I'm the Executive Director of La Causa Youth Build. And I'm very proud to be a part of the Repower LA Coalition. And I'm really excited to stand here today in front of you all in support of the Utility Pre-Craft Training Program. Now, at La Causa, our mission is to take young folks and their families and to provide training programs where we develop sustainable communities in communities of color in our neighborhood. And one of the things that we do is we train residents on how not only to develop these green collar job skills, such as in energy efficiency, like in solar training and weatherization, home techniques, to kind of spin on the word sustainable. To not only to develop sustainable homes, but also sustainable career paths, and to make the homeowners and these young folks sustainable in their own means, in terms of having in terms of livelihood, and really finding their place into this new green economy, which is really exciting because this is our modern day industrial revolution. So this utility pre-craft training position really affords us the opportunity to tell our young folks, like many other people, that the green jobs that everybody are talking about are finally going to be able to come to fruition, with this opportunity. And so not only does it do, to help our young folks and their families, help them economically, but it also, takes away our reliance in LA on coal. So the great thing about the framework is it's a really robust energy efficiency program that reduces our reliance on coal while putting folks back to work. So we're excited to see the Department of Water and Power, take the leadership on creating these entry-level positions for our young folks, not only to give them a job, but to put these folks on career paths to perform these comprehensive energy efficiency upgrades in not only homes but consumers' businesses as well. So I thank you, and we're looking forward to getting to work and putting our young folks and their families to work.
Thank you.
That was the last card.
Any other comments on item 15 from either commissioner? Is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. The item is approved. Item 16, Commissioner Noonan.
Thank you.
Who's presenting item 16? Okay, here.
Hello, my name is Glenn Singway. I'm the Director of Water Engineering. You have a question?
Thank you. Again, my reason for pulling this off the agenda, just to ask a couple of questions, really reflect back on General Manager Nichols' comments about trying to reduce costs. I'm just wondering whether or not there was a study done, an assessment done, to evaluate hiring employees that offer this kind of specialty versus paying a premium for outsourcing this work to other entities.
A great question, and we're very proud about just how we've managed this particular project. Actually, it's about a 50-50 effort. Our own staff is busy in the design of the portions of this project that they can handle and have had experience, and are getting additional experience with Malcolm Pierney, who has the expertise in the ultraviolet plant design that we have had no experience with. So we brought them in, and they've done an excellent job in identifying just the types of process, the types of mechanisms, and each of the components of the project that are needed to have a successful project. So they've worked hand in hand with us in continuing to finish the design.
Okay. Are there other entities aside from Malcolm Pierney that offer this kind of expertise?
Sure. There are others throughout the country.
And have you considered bidding them as consultants?
This was part of an as-needed contract, and we had three general engineering firms that had a wide variety of background and experiences. And we had the opportunity, since we had some available time with them, to bring them on early to do some preliminary studies for us. We found that they had such a good background and level of expertise that we wanted to continue with them, and found them to be able to work with our staff in a great way.
I defer to the two of you if you have any additional questions.
Yeah, I'd like to know what is the need for the additional duration for the contract? It seems like Commission's already extended it on a previous occasion.
We have. The extension originally was for the 3 as-needed contracts, and we had some additional time, but found them very useful in a variety of ways. We use them for designs of trunk lines, of other facilities, of some geotechnical work, other things that we had. We found the expertise for this particular plant, which came up not too long ago, the idea of doing this. And we can, by using the UV, we're saving a lot of, eventually a lot of time and materials over the long haul. We'll be able to reduce our reliance on ozone for disinfection right after the filtration plant, cuts down on the bromate formation, which has been a problem for us in the past. Anyway, this idea of UV came about, and we had this expertise on hand and started the preliminary planning effort with them, and found there to be a good chemistry in there in the mix with our own engineers, and wish to complete the design with this firm. We're on a very tight time frame. This particular project coming in later on in the process, and our discovery that it is a really good fit for us, we're on a real fast track. We have a mandate to complete this conversion to chloramines in the system, and this will be an important part of being able to do that by 2014. So we need to complete this design quickly and then go right into construction.
I want to compliment you on the WBMB participation in this contract. I mean, this is highly sophisticated work, and I think it's wonderful that you would reach out and find these firms. Is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Hearing no objection, item 16 passes. I believe there's a speaker for item 17.
Yes, we have one speaker, Dr. Clyde Williams.
Item 17. It's a rather interesting, Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. It's a rather interesting item. I hope everybody's read it, because the first page of item 17 actually introduces item 18 on the second page, and item 18 introduces item 17. Okay, just so everyone knows. Both of them are kind of related to recycling of water. You have a lot of effort going into it right now, but...
Excuse me, are your comments related to... is Dr. Williams the speaker on item 18 also?
Yes.
Why don't we take the items together? You can comment on both.
I'll do it once.
Okay.
Same way. Okay, the basic element is recycled water. You're doing a lot of work. Yeah, kind of. No, not really. If you took all of the San Fernando Valley and recycled it, 50,000 acre feet. Yeah, maybe 60,000. Each day, over 1,000 acre feet goes out through Hyperion. Yes, you're picking off the low-hanging fruit, but you're kind of claiming that it's a really big deal, when in point of fact, your really big deal will be Hyperion. Some people have said that, Hyperion may go to tertiary treatment sometime after 2020. As part of a long-range plan, it should be either, yes, you are going to go for it, or you're not, because it's fundamental. Everything else is kind of, not really a snow job. It's just the easy ones, and it's going to take you 10 years to do the easy ones, when Hyperion is sitting there with the larger amount. And item 18, it's not much different. In this one, you have audit and component analysis. All of this goes well with a good system, leaks and everything like that. However, where does it fit in a strategic plan? I will always keep coming back to that. You spend 2 years of our money, ratepayers, doing a strategic plan which has gone somewhere, we know not where. Huron went somewhere, we know not where, but maybe some of their staff is being used by PA. Some of their staff is being used here or there. We don't know. But the first thing is, as a board, the nation's largest municipal utility district, where's the strategic plan? You started one. Where is it? Thank you.
Comments or questions on items 17 and 18?
Just for the record, Dr. Williams did bring up a point. I was just looking at the internet, and apparently in the scanning of these items and posting on the internet, we've got the front page of item 17, and then it goes to page 2 of item 18. So that's what I think he was commenting on. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that.
Is there a motion to approve items 17 and 18?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Items 17 and 18 are approved. I think we're now to item 31. Is that Oh, yeah. Excuse me. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. Yeah. Yeah. No? You know, there is this.
Okay, that part will be clear on, so, but Matt, so whenever we go, they'll ask somebody.
Yeah.
We're recording.
We're recording.
Okay, we're back on the record. Item 31, I believe we have 2 speaker cards.
Yes, we do.
But why don't we have the present the item first? Yeah, let's have public comment first. The 2 speakers are...
Okay. Okay, the first speaker is Scott Fitz-Randolph, and then after that will be Christina Rose.
Hello, I'm Christina Rose. I hope you don't mind. We're going to spare you and have it just be one of us, and we'll be available to answer questions, both of us, afterwards. But Scott and I are husband and wife, and we are here because the property that is a part of agenda item number 31 is across from our house and from 5-6 other homes in our neighborhood. And the item that you see, and I'm sure you have read already, essentially fills DWP's half of a bargain that we reached a decade ago. We allowed the DWP because they had been going to cover Lake Hollywood and instead built reservoirs next to it and needed to dig that dirt out and have a place to put it. And we agreed as a neighborhood to allow DWP to have its heavy trucks and equipment and dirt and noise and inconvenience for years. Richard Harrisick, I think, can probably tell you how many, but for many years. And the agreement was that when the valley was filled in, that we would be able to purchase a small strip of property in front of our homes for $3.60 per square foot. We might have questioned that number because, frankly, it's pretty hard, we think, to appraise property that is inaccessible to the public. You can only reach it by going across our property and the other neighbors. It cannot be built on because it's filled. And so even at $3.60, we might have questioned it, but we understand that you can't engage in a gift of public funds, and consequently we reached an accord. We actually received a letter in August of 2003 when the work was completed from DWP offering that property to us at $3.60 an acre. We signed that offer, and then I can't remember how long after that, perhaps a year and 4 months, something like that. It was just quiescent. And then we received a letter totally ignoring the first offer that we had signed, offering the property to us at $8 a square foot. In our view, the DWP was reneging on an agreement. And what this would now finally do is have DWP fulfill its half of the bargain that we had all reached in 2003.
Thank you.
That's it. We're here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Richard Harrisick, Assistant Director of Water Operations, and 10 years ago was the Director of the Hollywood Water Quality Improvement Project. The Hollywood Reservoir Complex was the second project to place DWP's open reservoirs in compliance with the surface water treatment rule. And the solution was to place that reservoir, or those 2 reservoirs, Upper and Lower Hollywood Reservoir, out of service. And the way we did that was to construct a bypass tunnel, so water that normally would have spilled in the reservoir would be bypassed underground directly into the distribution system, not be open to the atmosphere, et cetera, as well as to construct 2 large water tanks to provide storage. The construction of those water tanks was such that they would be buried, so there was basically a 1 million cubic yard hole that was dug in the ground, and that resulted in the need to put that fill, that extra soil, that spoil, if you will, somewhere. And so in consultation with help of the local community, we decided to infill some of the small canyons that surrounded the tank area and some of the hillsides, an innovative method called landform grading. And the actual excavation of the tunnel, the hole in the tank, when it was all said and done, yielded an amount greater than what was planned to put in those fill sites. So our options at the time were either to haul off that extra material at a great expense, or to, at a lower cost option, place this additional amount on the last remaining fill site that we had available. So to do that, though, would require us to put that fill onto the adjacent homeowner's property. And the homeowner's property is such in this last canyon, is you have the canyon, and they're up in the rim, and so their homes are up on a level slope, and their property actually extends down into the canyon with the property line below. So what we did was fill in that canyon and bring their property up, so now their property line was extended in a level area, and then we put even more beyond that extended additional level area for them. So through negotiations, management came to an agreement with the homeowners to place that fill higher into the canyon on their property up to the level of their homes. And in consideration for placing that excess fill on the homeowner's property, DVP gave the homeowners the right through an August 2001 covenant agreement to purchase the created additional level land that adjoined their property. Now that land is restricted by covenant to essentially allow for only private yards with no structures on that. And the price was to be at a fair market value, which was appraised at the time at $3.60 a square foot. Upon completion of the project, the homeowner submitted written offers in a 2003 to purchase. When the department is going to purchase land from somebody, or excuse me, they're going to purchase land from us, we send an offer to purchase to them. So what we do is we want them, we want to know that when we're going to enter into negotiations that they're a bona fide buyer. And so we send what's called an offer to purchase, and we state the purchase price in there, and then they sign those, send them back and say, yes, when officially offered, we will buy X property at that price. And so that was sent out at that time, and in November of 2003, all the homeowners sent back in those signed offers to purchase at the $3.60 square foot price that was officially offered to them. And in fact, in May of 2004, the city administrative officer recommended approval at that $3.60 price. And the DWP and the community were ready to go to the board for approval in 2004 after settling a variety of issues that we still had. And the then CAO's office requested a new appraisal be made that resulted in a per square foot price of $8. So in 2006, in February 2006, DVP staff went to the Board of Commissioners to recommend the sale of the properties at the $3.60 price, and noted that there was an $8 reappraisal price. And that 2006 board wanted to take advantage of the higher value that had been made possible by the passage of time and approved a resolution at that higher price. So the basis for our recommendation now is to acknowledge that the department has already realized a savings of $500,000 nearly 10 years ago. And that was a savings by being allowed to place that fill on site and not pay the immense price of hauling it off and placing it elsewhere. And if not for a series of events, the homeowners could have realized the opportunity to benefit from what they bargained for, the then fair market value at the time they signed the covenant and agreement. And that, being a participant in that at that time, that was the clear understanding of department management, the homeowners, and the council office that was working with us. And the $3.60 per square foot price was indeed the amount the homeowners were officially asked by the DVP to purchase the land for. So now comes a time where the homeowners, Councilman LaBonge, and the DVP staff are requesting to honor and approve the original per square foot price and rescind the latter. And I can answer any questions.
Questions from the commissioners? Mm-hmm. So what do we think the fair market value is today?
Well, if I bought my house about that time, and it went up in the intervening years, and it's gone way back down. So I would imagine, you know, we have not done an appraisal now, but the essence of what we're recommending today is that really, if not for that series of events, we would have been back in time where that would have been a relevant price. I think we all would probably, you know, put our wooden finger in the air, would probably say that's probably about the price it is now. And as Christina said, it is completely landlocked. There's restrictions on it. You can't. In fact, you can only build a 3-foot high fence. That's about the highest structure you can build on there. So it's extremely restricted.
Commissioner Ross?
When the original agreement was made back in the early 2000s, was the understanding that when the property became available for sale, it would be sold at the then fair market price?
Yes, and that was defined as $3.60.
As of that time?
Yes. And that was the time that we actually made that offer.
So what was the delay then in finally getting to the point of transferring over such that it got reappraised?
The time is really shared by both the department and to an extent the homeowners. There was a lot of just process issues with the department, administrative details that go back and forth with the CAO's office at certain times. We in those part of that time. We added one homeowner that should have been initially added to that. The deal was made prior to the fill being put in, and when the fill is finally placed, we knew exactly what we're dealing with, and so we knew exactly where the meets and bounds were of that time, and that's when the dollar amount was set when we actually had placed the last cubic yard of fill, and so there was just a series of administrative things. The community was. Questioning amongst itself. They have a community road that they share that goes through all 6 properties, and they were deciding amongst themselves whether to possibly move that out to the edge of this new fill. That kind of figured into some of the homeowners' decisions whether to purchase or not, so that added a little bit of time. So it's hard to pinpoint on one thing, but there have been a series of events that were all legitimate. Nobody's really been dragging their heels, but we're here at this point with the offer.
So was the original deal an option to purchase at a time certain? Is that the way to describe the?
Yeah, basically the way it worked, the covenant is written is it just follows the basic city process for selling excess land in this case. So the way it was written is the project's done, the appraisal price is set, it goes to the board for approval, and that your approval is always based on city council's final approval. And so if this were to go forward, it would go down to a council subcommittee, to full council, where they approve it and basically approve the department entering into, in a sense, entering into escrow based on our, authorized offer of that $3.60 a square foot. So the covenant at that point reads, acknowledging that you would go down all through council, get council approval, that we would then go to them with official letter essentially saying, if you're willing, we're going to enter escrow. You have 90 days at that point. A 90-day clock starts for them to enter into escrow with us. But that's after it goes through this board and then council.
So obviously I want to follow the spirit of the agreement. What I'm struggling with is, given the price differential, how do we know this is not now a gift of public funds? If it's a fair market value, then clearly there's no gift. Right? If you've done an appraisal, I would know that. So I'm struggling with.
Yeah, the way you resolve that is really of how you want to deal with that intervening time. If not for the intervening time, as I said, shared by both sides, we would be back closer to that time where the deal was struck. And it's only because of that passage of time that we're in a point, and obviously the market goes up and down, where we're even able to ask that question. And so what we're trying to do is in other words, from the homeowner's perspective, we already got our part of the deal back 10 years ago. Okay, we put our dirt on their property, and they agreed to do that at $3.60. That's what we offered. That's what's in writing. That's what they wrote back saying, yeah, we're going to do that at that price. So they may just say, well, if you're going to offer it for something else, take your dirt back. I don't know. But that's what the deal was, and it's just because of whatever we're here at this point.
Is it fair to say that those intervening events, that the homeowners were not at fault?
I would share that what that weighting is between us and them. I wouldn't venture to say it's probably more the department and the city than them.
Questions from the commissioners? Is there a motion to approve?
I so motion.
Second.
Hearing no objections, item passes.
Thank you.
Item 32. I don't think there are any speaker cards, but
no speaker cards.
Yeah.
Matt Lamp, Chief Information Officer. This is an enabling agreement with 7 vendors for the purchase of computer equipment, maintenance, installation, configuration services. This is the 3rd contract we've used of this variety. One way to conceptualize this is as a pre-qualification contract process. So we go out, we notify a large number of potential bidders. We try to then go through the bids we get to ensure that for all the major categories of equipment we're purchasing and various equipment that we have as standards, that we have at least 2 vendors in the pool who are certified to bid on those various pieces of equipment. On some of them we have up to 5. We look at them in terms of their capability to provide a broad mix of equipment, so we're not having to pull a lot of things out and do separate bids, which becomes more or much less efficient for the department. But every piece of equipment we purchase through this contract goes through sort of a mini bid process to this pool of vendors to make sure that as the contract moves through, we end up with competitive selection. Of these 7 vendors, 2 have both women and minority business enterprise status. A 3rd has women business enterprise status, and a 4th has minority business enterprise status. There is no particular percentage to any of these because each piece of equipment that we purchase off this enabling agreement does go out to a mini bid process. So we have to sort of look at that over time. The dollar amount is based primarily on looking at both historic and expected procurements. We've tuned it down. I mean, this last contract was a $40 million contract. Our final spend when the last invoices get paid, I think, will be right around $36 million, so we have controlled it below the contract level. This one we're coming in at $35 million, respecting that we are trying to extend some of the life of equipment, so we think we can, even though we have some major projects coming up, live with a slightly lower ceiling on the contract at this point in time. Questions?
Just for my benefit, could you place the contract in context in terms of your entire hardware purchase budget over the same three-year period? I mean, is this essentially your 3-year total budget, or is this a portion of a budget? And how does that fit in?
Yeah, this is really the vehicle for the major portion of our budget. Now, it will vary a little bit as you go through various years. So the last period, one of the things we did was replace the mainframe. The mainframe was separately bid. So there we had some significant expenditures beyond this contract. Occasionally we run into some specific equipment we need to buy that we can't buy off this contract, so we do have to go out to bid. But for what I would call commodity hardware, commodity servers, storage, PCs, laptops, printers, all those devices, this probably makes up, I would guess, somewhere in the range of 85% of those types of purchases.
And do you do multi-year budgeting when you're figuring out a contract amount like this?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do.
Thank you. First of all, my question is, what is the typical time frame for upgrading computers? Is 3 years typical for this kind of a municipality?
One of the things we've been doing as part of the general manager's cost reductions was really looking at what's a reasonable extension of life. If you look at industry standards, they'll range 3 to 4 years on a desktop, laptops toward the shorter end, 3-year time frame. We have extended that a little bit beyond that, and now we're looking at what I'll call 4-year and 5-year, but the reality is if we generally purchase these with a 3-year warranty, if we're getting into the sort of that 4th year, we will purchase a replacement rather than repair, because generally the repair cost, it's not worth it for a short period of time. The other piece of the replacement cycle that's really important is that periodically we have to do upgrades of operating systems. So right now, the vast majority of the desktop machines in the department run Windows XP. In 2014, there will be no more security patches available for Windows 4 XP. So by that time, we have to be fully migrated off. And it's much, much more efficient to do that as part of the replacement cycle. So we try to balance all those issues, but generally speaking, we're looking for desktops at a 5-year, laptops at a 4-year, servers anywhere in the 4 to 7 year, depending whether we're talking the really big high-performance servers or general purpose blade type servers.
What do you do with the computers that you dispose of?
Two things happen. Sometimes we're able to actually reuse them inside the department. So some of the servers, if we have to replace for performance reasons, we may move to use as for a test or development server and extend their life that way. But we follow the city salvage process where we strip all the data out of them, we clean them, and make them available for purchase through the city salvage operations.
Okay, and that revenue is returned to the city's general fund or to our department?
I believe they come back to our department.
Mm-hmm. I would be curious just to know what kind of revenue that entails over that kind of time frame.
We can try to find out. That's generally not handled by, that's sort of goes through a whole salvage operation, but we can try to track that.
But yeah, since the lifespan's so short, it would be interesting to know, since we're we're investing so frequently. It'd be nice to know what kind of reinvestment we get with the computers that we dispose of. 2 more questions. Have we done a scenario to review leasing versus purchasing this kind of hardware?
Not recently. Generally speaking, the leasing seems to balance out if you do like a 3-year replacement cycle. As you extend your replacement cycle, it tends to get less and less beneficial. But that is something that's reviewable. The other thing that we want to be looking at over this next cycle, and more people are starting to do that, is basically virtualizing desktops to servers. So a server in the data center may be supporting 25 to 50 desktops, and what's actually out on the desktop is a much less capable unit, but one that has basically less moving parts, longer life, a lower cost. But there are a lot of complexities in doing that depending on your application mix. So we want to explore that very carefully over these next few years and see if we can actually make some savings that way. This contract would facilitate either approach.
I support that, since this is such a substantial line item. I think it's important for us to keep our options open and see how we can try and reduce costs where possible. My last question is one really of technicality. It says that notices were not offered to any women business enterprises, yet one responded. So can you speak to that?
Interesting. Because actually in the group that is here, and I think what's going on is that the people tend to be categorized in one or the other. So we actually have 3 companies that have WBE certification among the 7. But 2 of them also have MBE certification. But we send things out to known entities, and then we also use Bhavan, the city's listing, so we send it out very globally. And so we usually end up with responses from a lot of people who aren't people we necessarily sent to. So generally we might send to people who respond, since we've done this twice before, to all the people who responded before. But we're always encouraging other vendors to apply, and in this case we have I think a very healthy mix of vendors in this 7.
Are any of the companies in the group LA-based?
They vary. I think almost all have. I think there's only one company whose sort of point of contact is San Diego. The rest are either Los Angeles, Cerritos, Gardenia, Woodland Hills. So in the region.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve item 32?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Item 32 passes. Item 33. I think that's probably our, yes.
Item 33 is the power system refunding bonds that the general manager spoke of, where we're looking for our $50 million cash savings over the next 5 years. FSO is recommending up to $800 million of bonds to be refinanced for our 2001 Series A. Right now, we're paying about 5.24% on $716.6 million of these bonds, and we think that we'll have an all-in cost of 3.37. We're planning to go to the market at the first part of May if this is approved today.
Questions?
I'll just say that I applaud this move. It's always a good thing to take advantage of market swings when they're in your favor.
Are there other opportunities to do similar refinancing within our portfolio?
A 2003 Series B that we're watching, and if that would, we mandate a 3% net present value savings to go ahead and do this, so we're watching that one, and we're also watching bonds on the water side. We haven't seen that 3% target hit yet, but we do have the authorization from City Council to move with refunding bonds on the water side if we see the savings.
Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objection, the item is approved. Item 34.
Was there anyone who wanted to speak on 34?
Oh, sorry, yes. Oh, there is?
No, I guess not.
Okay.
No speakers on 34.
Item 34, are there any questions on item 34? We've already read and reviewed the item. Is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, item 34 is approved. I believe we have a speaker for item 35.
Yes, we do. Item 35 is Cynthia Gaudioso.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Gaudioso, and I work in the Labor Relations Office at Water and Power, and I have been impacted by this grievance as a member of ACE, which is a union in Water and Power. I am here to respectfully request that your honorable board hold off on the rendering of a final decision regarding this grievance until you have all the information available to you to make an informed decision. That material, you were provided with a 10-page packet of material that we would refer to as an exceptions report for this grievance. It has supplemental information that we believe that you will find imperative in regards to the Personnel Committee report prepared by Mr. Marr for your honorable board. The material includes, at the very least, I think that you need to have that to be able to make an informed decision. The report that was prepared requested that an EEO investigation should be conducted, and we actually, as ACE, appreciate the suggestion of the Personnel Committee to have that investigation conducted, as ACE maintains that management should have done so on the onset of our initial allegations, as they had a legal obligation to do so. We have provided this exceptions, as I mentioned, we've provided the exceptions report with the supplemental materials that support our allegations, and these materials clearly point out the inaccuracies and flawed logic of Cecil Marr's legal advice to your honorable board. We believe that EEOS will need some, if not all, of these materials to effectively conduct their investigation. As stated on page 5 of the report, It was recommended that the department transmit the grievance file to EEOS and that the EEOS report their findings of the gender discrimination claim back to this board within 60 days. We respectfully request that the final decision be held in abeyance until such time as, 1, the gender discrimination allegations are fully investigated, 2, that the issues surrounding the selection of a male employee in the office involves, and that was involving a temporary appointment that was initially given to this male and then extended once again by Peter Lakatos for an additional month, rather than offer that any type of appointment to 2 females that were as experienced, if not more experienced, than the male individual that was on the receiving end of that special appointment. 3, that management, EEO looks into the allegations that management attempted to dislodge the grievance claim of discrimination by appointing yet a different person, a female this time, but one that was not in the original candidate pool, to offset the claim of gender discrimination that was made at each level of the grievance. We find that it's very interesting that at each level of the grievance process, and that you can see as written in our accessions reports on pages 4 and 5, each manager at each level had a different interpretation of what Mr. Lakatos told his staff as to his reasonings why he did what he did. So we find that to be very suspect, and I think that that aspect of it needs to be investigated by EEOS as well. We believe that EEOS, we would like you to look at this exceptions reports in regards to the inaccuracies of the allegations. In Mr. Marr's findings, or the board's findings, he indicated that there was an issue that ACE had never proved that males were offered money prior to our letter of agreement. They found no supporting documentation to that effect, and there would not have been any to find, because the males that were offered the money declined it, and we have statement in the 10-page packet that supports that. And that needs to be looked at by EEOS as well. And our 5th item is that the LOA that Mr. Marr, or the board's report, refers to is that there's a committee report that says that the LOA for the temporary assignments within our class was not a valid LOA. And we believe that that particular item was thrown in to the report to muddy the waters and offset the merits of the grievance regarding the gender discrimination. So based on these issues that I bring before you, we would hope that you do not render a decision today, but that you send the report, as again we said we appreciate that you send that report to EEO, have them look at all the issues regarding the gender discrimination, all of the aspects that we have in our exceptions report, and then at that point in time we can come back and discuss that issue as a whole.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Thank you. Is there a presentation that someone wants to make on this matter? Is there anything else we need to know?
You don't normally make a presentation, but I'll be happy to make one.
I guess the central question is,
Sure.
there's this exception report, right? I think what's being asked is for this to be considered.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Is there a reason we should or should not consider this exception report?
Well, since
Is it
I've never
time barred or?
it's not time barred. I've never seen the exceptions report. It was just handed to my supervisor 5 minutes before they stood up there. So I haven't read it, so I don't know what it contains other than what Ms. Scotiosa just testified to. There's nothing to bar the committee from deferring it to another meeting, so that if that's what the committee would like to do. As far as the EEO allegations that they mentioned were raised in the grievance, they weren't raised in the grievance. They were raised at the last board meeting, never part of the grievance at any of the other stages of the grievance process, which is what Mr. Marr was trying to raise. But that the board acknowledge that there was some issues raised that they claimed to have been discrimination, and he referred the information over to the EEO office to investigate their allegations.
So what's the department's recommendation?
Well, I would actually prefer to have it deferred, simply since I would like to read what they're, what they're claiming. I haven't read it, so I don't know what it is.
Okay. Unless there are objections from, the commission should probably defer the matter. And what we'll do is we'll defer it until you bring it back. Okay?
We can do that.
Okay. Is there a motion to defer the item?
So moved.
Second. Motion passes.
May I ask one question?
Sure.
In regards to the succession reports, are the members of the commission going to review this in all of the documentation that we provide to you before you make the decision on whether or not to have the matter investigated?
We will review the record as it's presented to us.
Great. Thank you very much, sir.
I think that's it, Barbara, for the discussion items?
For discussion items,
Okay,
yeah.
now we have filed items, right? So,
And I do have one speaker card for one of the filed items.
okay, which one is that?
For 36B.
Okay, that's, unless there are questions or concerned about 36A and B, let's deem those filed. Is that
Okay.
Right? And then we have a speaker on 36B.
Okay, the speaker for 36B is Dr. Clyde Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. I used to do power, but today it's water. Is the drought over? Because there's a question as to, on page 1, the graph and the table on page 2 differ from the text. The text says 3.3 lower than the prior year, when in point of fact it is 3.3% higher, it appears, at least from the tables. So there'd be a question as to clarification, because when I read percent change from prior year, plus, i.e. not negative 3.3, which accords with the graph on page 1. But the basic element is the drought over? Will conservation measures be reduced during the next few months? So next months will be rather interesting. There's also a matter that didn't have many leaks during February. Second lowest in almost 100 months, seems to be. Hey, maybe that's a good thing because the water's coming back up. By the way, our fire hydrants in El Sereno have at least about 3 to 4% leaks from the valves and the closures. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there are other comments, item 36B is deemed filed. We had 37A already, right? We've done that. That's the reduction proposal. Any comments on 37B? Okay, hearing none. Anything else for the good of the cause? Just want to welcome you again to your first meeting. Appreciate and look forward to your participation. And meeting's adjourned.
Did you want about number number 5? Number 5, the minutes?
No, we're going to have to vote on 5, the minutes, because you weren't here for the meeting, so I have to have commissioners over here. That was my mistake. And also, I think I put in the consent agenda item 14. Item 14 was actually pulled, so that'll be considered at a later meeting. Just to clarify those things.
You adjourned to closed session.
Can I make one last request before the meeting is adjourned? Thank you. During public comment, a gentleman by the name of Peter Griswold spoke about the inefficiencies in getting a project serviced in his neighborhood. So I personally would appreciate if someone could look into that situation and advise of that delay, because if in fact this work could have been completed within 2 to 3 days and it took 30 days, I think it's really our fiduciary duty to look into that. So thank you.
Someone will follow up?
We will follow up on that one, and also on notifying Dr. Williams so that his fire hydrant painting crew doesn't paint fire hydrants that are going to be replaced. So I'll get back to you on both those.
Do you have any additional paint for him?
I think there's paint whenever he needs paint.
Anything else? All right, thank you all. Meeting stands adjourned. We'll take a quick
No, we're
break.
going to recess.
Wait.
Recess to closed
recess
session.
Then go into closed session. Do you have some admonition we need to hear?
Yeah, the board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with Section 54-957.1 of the California Government Code.
All right, so we have a 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene. So you don't actually adjourn you adjourn the open session? Okay. You just go right on. That's part of it. Okay, okay. All right.
You didn't ask him what color.